Good morning, everybody. My name is Sonal Gupta and I am Masters in Zoology and B.Ed. Along with that, I am CSIR JRF NET and CTET qualified. Welcome in today's lecture. Today we will discuss about the cell. Students, as I said cell, it doesn't mean we're going to discuss about the cell phone that we and our parents are using to communicate. Today we will discuss about the cell of the living organisms. As you can think of the simplest organism. For example, if you can think of bacteria, viruses, coronavirus, to the complex organisms, for example, plants, animals, whales, elephant, fishes, all these organisms are actually made up of cells. So actually the cells are the building block of the living organisms. Let's take an example of a building which are made up of bricks. In the same way, all the living organisms are actually made up of cell. That's why we say cell is the basic structural unit of living organisms. Okay, then another point is, if we talk about the functions, cell can perform vast variety of the functions. For example, let's take an example of an eye. The eye cell help us to see, right? And likewise, I'm trying to explain you about something and your brain is processing the information. That means your brain cell is performing the function of processing the information. So you can say cells can perform vast variety of functions, and that's why it is also called as the functional unit of life. So students, you have to memorize two things. Cells are the basic structural and the functional unit of life. Talking about its discovery, it was first discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. He observed thin slices of cork under self-made microscope, and he observed honeycomb-like structures. There were small room-like compartments, later which he called as cell. Later on in year 1676, another scientist improved the quality of the microscope and observed first ever living cell. His name was Anton von Leeuwenhoek. So students, there are two scientists. Number one, in 1665, Robert Hooke discovered the first ever cell, and in 1676, Anton von Leeuwenhoek discovered first ever living cell. Now talking about the structure of the cell. Let's compare the structure of the cell to the building of your school premises. There is outer boundary which is acting as the cell wall. This is the outer boundary which is acting as the cell wall of the cell. Then there is a door, main gate, at which a gatekeeper is sitting over here. He will allow the entry of the students only who are having proper uniform, having identity card, and who are on time, right? Then it means it is allowing the only selective students to enter through the gate into your school premises. In the same way, cell is having a cell membrane which allows the entry of only selective substances through it. In the school premises, you have principal office who directs the teachers and the students for the proper functioning of the school. In the same way, we have the nucleus in the cell who directs the cell for its proper functioning. Then everything outside this principal office and inside the school premises, it includes your laboratories, assembly halls, your activity area, it is equal to the cytoplasm of the cell. That is, anything which is outside the nucleus and inside the cell membrane, it is called as the cytoplasm. So we have three things in our cell: the cell membrane, which is acting as the gatekeeper, which allows only the selective molecules to pass through it; cytoplasm, anything which is outside the nucleus and inside the cell membrane; and the nucleus, which is like a school principal, which directs the proper functioning of the cell. So we will discuss about all these things one by one. First of all, let's discuss about the plasma membrane, which is also called as the cell membrane. In animal cell, students, please note, only in case of animal cell, it is the outermost layer. It separates the content of the cell from the outside. As you can see in the diagram, they are brown bubbles. These are actually the lipids which are forming a sheath. And in this, you can observe some blue bubbles. These blue bubbles are actually the proteins which are embedded into the lipid layer. So you can say the plasma membrane is made up of proteins and lipids. Next thing is it is selectively permeable, which means it will allow the entry of only selective gases and solid particles through it by the process of diffusion. Now the question arises, what is diffusion? Diffusion is actually a physical process which allows the entry of molecule from higher concentration to the lower concentration. For example, let's take an example, right? We are having 10 molecules of oxygen gas over here, and we are having only 5 molecules of oxygen gas over here. So it means we are having higher concentration of oxygen outside the cell, and it will pass through the membrane inside the cell, through this membrane, and this thing is called as diffusion. Okay, from movement of substances from higher concentration to lower concentration through this membrane, it is called as diffusion. But in case of plants, we are having an additional layer called as cell wall outside the plasma membrane. So we can say the outermost covering in the plant cell, it is the cell wall. Like any other wall, its function is to provide the structural strength to the cell. It means it provides the structure and it provides the strength, mechanical strength to the cell. It is basically made up of cellulose and it is completely permeable. It means it allows the entry of all the substances, all the molecules through it. Now the next component we have is nucleus. Nucleus is called as the headquarter of the cell. As you know, it is present in the cell and it guides the cell for its proper functioning. If we talk about its structure, it has 4 parts. First is the nuclear envelope. Nuclear envelope is actually the double membrane. As you can see in the diagram, it is of 2 layered. It has outer membrane and it has inner membrane. Then we have chromatin, which are thread-like structures, centrally located nucleolus, and we are having nuclear pores, which are present in the nuclear envelope. And this nucleus consists of DNA in case of us, which is actually the genetic material which is passing the information from parents to the children, right? And next thing is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the final component. It is the fluid outside this nucleus and inside this plasma membrane. As you can see here, there are certain things which are present in the nucleus. These are called as the cell organelles. Cell organelles are nothing but the part of the cells which are assigned with the specific functions. They have, for example, let's take an example of mitochondria. Mitochondria is called as the powerhouse of the cell because it is providing us the energy which is needed for the day-to-day activities. In the same way, we have lysosomes. Lysosomes are called as the suicidal bags because it removes all the debris and the dead parts of the cell from the cell and hence maintaining a homeostasis. And we will discuss about this cell organelles in detail in the next lecture. I hope you enjoy the session. Thank you.